Hello, and welcome back to your English listening practice. Today, we continue our story inspired by the magical world of Harry Potter. This is part 2. In this episode, the sentences will be a little longer. The ideas will be more connected. However, I will still speak slowly and clearly. Listen carefully. Try to understand the full meaning, not just single words. Let's begin. Harry woke up early that morning because he could not sleep well. Although he tried to relax, his mind was full of thoughts about the challenges waiting for him at school. The castle was quiet, and the sky outside his window was still gray. Bing! For a moment he stayed in bed and listened to the wind moving softly around the towers. He felt nervous, but at the same time, he felt determined. He knew that something important was going to happen that day. Even though he did not know exactly what it was, he could feel it. Repeat this sentence. He felt nervous, but he was determined. Good. Determined means you decide to continue even when something feels difficult. Harry slowly got out of bed and prepared for the day. As he walked through the long hallway, he noticed that the castle felt different. Usually, the mornings were calm and peaceful. However, today there was a quiet tension in the air, as if everyone was waiting for something. When he entered the great hall, he saw his friends sitting together at the long wooden table. They were talking in low voices. As soon as they saw him, they stopped speaking. "Is everything okay?" Harry asked. His friend looked at him seriously and said, "We heard there might be a difficult test today." Although he had studied, he still felt unsure. He thought about the last lesson. It had been challenging because the spell required both focus and confidence. If your mind was distracted, the spell would fail. This made Harry realize something important. Success was not only about knowledge, it was also about belief. Repeat this sentence. It is also about belief. Again, slowly. Success is not only about knowledge, it is also about belief. As the students waited for the teacher to arrive, Harry closed his eyes for a moment. Instead of thinking about failure, he imagined himself succeeding. He imagined speaking clearly. He imagined staying calm. Because he changed his thoughts, his breathing became slower. His hands stopped shaking. This shows us something important. When we control our thoughts, we can control our feelings. Repeat. When I control my thoughts, I control my feelings. Again, when I control my thoughts, I control my feelings. The hall became completely silent. The test began. One by one, students stood up and performed the spell. Some students succeeded immediately, while others made small mistakes. However, nobody laughed. Everyone understood that learning takes time. When it was Harry's turn, his heart started beating faster. Although he felt pressure, he remembered his decision to stay calm. He stood straight. He focused. He spoke clearly. For a second, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the spell worked. A soft light filled the room. The teacher nodded with approval. Harry felt relief. Not because he was perfect. This moment was important. It taught him that fear does not disappear before action. Instead, fear becomes smaller after action. Repeat this sentence. Fear becomes smaller after action. Again, fear becomes smaller after action. Maybe you feel afraid to speak. Maybe you worry about making mistakes. However, just like Harry, you grow when you try. If you stay silent, your fear stays strong. But if you speak, even with small mistakes, your confidence grows. Listen carefully to this longer sentence. Although I feel nervous when I speak English, I become more confident every time I try. Although I feel nervous when I speak English, I become more confident every time I try. Very good. Stories help us understand life. Through Harry's experience, we learn about patience, belief, and effort. Because he continued practicing, he improved. Even when the situation was difficult, he stayed focused. And step by step, he became stronger than before. Now listen again. He was not perfect, but he was improving. Again, he was not perfect, but he was improving. We continue the story as Harry begins to understand that real growth happens quietly, in small daily moments, when nobody is watching, and when the only person who truly sees your progress is you. Now let's continue learning vocabulary through the story. Remember, learning words in context helps you understand them naturally. You do not just memorize the word. You feel it, you hear it. Word, determined. Listen to this word. Determined. Determined means you decide to do something, and you do not stop, even if it is difficult. Listen to this sentence. Harry was determined to improve his skills. Repeat. Harry was determined to improve his skills. Again. Harry was determined to improve his skills. Say, I am determined to improve my English. Very good. Being determined does not mean you never feel tired. It means you continue anyway. Word confused. Next word. Confused means you do not understand something clearly. Listen. At first, Harry felt confused during the lesson. At first, Harry felt confused during the lesson. At first, Harry felt confused during the lesson. Now say, sometimes I feel confused when I listen to fast English. Sometimes I feel confused when I listen to fast English. That is normal. Confusion is part of learning. However, confusion is temporary. If you continue practicing, clarity comes later. Repeat this longer sentence. Although I feel confused sometimes, I keep practicing. Again. Although I feel confused sometimes, I keep practicing. Word, confident. Next word. Confident. Confident means you believe in yourself and your ability. Listen carefully. After many days of practice, Harry became more confident. Repeat. After many days of practice, Harry became more confident. After many days of practice, Harry became more confident every day. Repeat slowly. I am becoming more confident every day. Very good. Notice the structure. I am becoming. This shows progress. Not perfect, but improving. Word, proud. Proud means you feel happy about your effort or achievement. Listen. Harry felt proud of his progress. Harry felt proud of his progress. Again. Harry felt proud of his progress. Now say, I feel proud when I speak English. Even if your sentence is simple, you can still feel proud. Pride comes from effort, not from perfection. However, now let's practice a connector. However. However shows contrast. It means but in a more formal way. Listen. Harry was nervous. However, he continued. Again, Harry was nervous. However, he continued. Now say, I make mistakes. However, I keep speaking. I make mistakes. However, I keep speaking. Very good. Useful connector. Therefore. Therefore shows result. It means because of that. Listen. Harry practiced every day. Therefore, he improved. Therefore, he improved. Again, Harry practiced every day. Therefore, he improved. Now say, I understand more. I listen to English daily. Therefore, I understand more. Excellent. Story practice with new vocabulary. Try to understand the meaning, not just the words. At first, Harry felt confused because the lesson was difficult. However, he was determined to learn. He practiced every evening. Therefore, he became more confident. In the end, he felt proud of his progress. Now repeat sentence by sentence. At first, Harry felt confused because the lesson was difficult. Pause. However, he was determined to learn. He practiced every evening. Therefore, he became more confident. Pause. In the end, he felt proud of his progress. Now let's make it personal. Repeat after me. At first, I felt confused because English was difficult. However, I am determined to learn. Pause. I practice every day. Therefore, I am becoming more confident. Pause. I feel proud of my progress. Excellent work. Notice how the connectors help your sentences sound more natural and more advanced. Instead of short sentences, you are building ideas. You are connecting thoughts. This is how you move from A2 to B1L, evil. Now, listen again to the key vocabulary. Determined, confused, confident, proud, however, therefore. Determined, confused, confident, proud, however, therefore. Now we continue using these words in longer sentences, allowing your listening skills to grow stronger while your speaking becomes more natural and connected. Hello again. In this part of the lesson, we focus on listening. Not fast listening, not stressful listening. I will speak clearly. However, the sentences will sound natural, like real English. Your goal is not to understand every single word. Your goal is to understand the meaning. Listen for the idea. Listen for the message. Let's begin. Harry was walking across the castle courtyard when he noticed something unusual. The sky was darker than usual, even though it was still early in the afternoon. A cold wind moved through the air, and the trees began to shake softly. At first, he thought it was only a storm. However, the feeling in his chest told him that it was something more serious. Now, listen again to this sentence. At first, he thought it was only a storm. However, the feeling in his chest told him that it was something more serious. He thought one thing, but he felt another thing. That is how English stories often work. Now I will say it again, a little faster. At first, he thought it was only a storm. However, the feeling in his chest told him that it was something more serious. As he continued walking, he saw other students looking up at the sky with worried expressions. Some were whispering quietly. Others were standing completely still, as if they were waiting for instructions. Although nobody spoke loudly, the tension was clear. You did not need words to understand it. Now, here is a listening question. Why were the students worried? Think for a moment. They were worried because the sky was dark and something felt unusual. When you listen to English, always ask yourself simple questions. Who? What? Why? Suddenly, a loud sound echoed across the courtyard. It was not thunder. It was not wind. It was something heavy, landing on the ground. Harry turned quickly, and his heart started beating faster. Even though he wanted to stay calm, his body reacted before his mind did. Now listen carefully to this longer sentence. Even though he wanted to stay calm, his body reacted before his mind did. Repeat. Even though he wanted to stay calm, his body reacted before his mind did. Excellent. Notice how this sentence connects two ideas. He wanted to stay calm, but his body reacted. This is natural spoken English. Let's continue. A large shadow moved across the stone walls. For a brief moment, everything felt silent. Then, slowly, a figure appeared at the entrance of the courtyard. The students stepped back, not because someone told them to move, but because fear pushed them away. Listen again. The students stepped back, not because someone told them to move, but because fear pushed them away. The students stepped back, not because someone told them to move, but because fear pushed them away. In real English, we often explain reasons clearly. Not because, but because. This pattern is common and useful. Now I will read a short paragraph at a slightly more natural speed. Just listen. Do not repeat yet. Harry took a deep breath and forced himself to focus. Although the situation was frightening, he remembered the lessons he had learned. Panic would not help him. Clear thinking would. Therefore, instead of running away, he stood still and observed carefully. Main idea. The main idea is that Harry chose calm thinking instead of panic. Now I will say it again, slowly. Although the situation was frightening, he remembered the lessons he had learned. Panic would not help him. Clear thinking would. Therefore, instead of running away, he stood still and observed carefully. Now repeat this sentence. Panic would not help him. Clear thinking would. Listening is not about speed. It is about understanding patterns. For example, although, however, therefore. Instead of, these words guide your understanding. When you hear although, you expect contrast. When you hear therefore, you expect a result. Now listen to this final section carefully. As the wind grew stronger, Harry realized that fear was spreading quickly among the students. However, he also understood that someone needed to remain calm. Because he had practiced staying focused in difficult moments, he felt more prepared than before. What helped Harry feel prepared? Is practice. Practice creates calm. Now repeat. Practice creates calm. Very good. When you listen to English stories regularly, your brain becomes familiar with these patterns. At first, it feels slow. Then, it feels natural. Soon, you stop translating in your mind. You simply understand. Now listen once more, without repeating, and try to follow the full meaning as the situation in the courtyard begins to change, and Harry prepares himself for what might happen next. In this part of the lesson, we focus on speaking, not perfect speaking, confident speaking. At the A2 B1 level, your goal is not only to understand English, your goal is to express ideas, longer ideas, clear ideas, personal ideas. This story is In Spee, read by the Journey of Harry Potter, from the world of Harry Potter. But today, you are also part of the story. Let's begin. Harry stood in the courtyard, feeling the cold wind on his face. He knew something difficult was about to happen. In the past, he might have stayed quiet and waited for someone else to act. However, he had changed. He had learned from experience. He had practiced staying calm. Now listen and repeat. In the past, I was afraid to speak. In the past, I was afraid to speak. Good. Now say, however, I am becoming more confident. However, I am becoming more confident. This is B1 level speaking. You compare who you were and who you are now. Harry looked around and saw that many students were unsure what to do. Some were whispering nervously, others were frozen in place. He realized that confidence is not about feeling no fear. It is about acting despite fear. Repeat. Confidence is not about feeling no fear. It is about acting despite fear. Now say the full idea. Confidence is not about feeling no fear. It is about acting despite fear. Now I will ask you a question. What do you usually do when you feel nervous in English? Think for a moment. Do you stay silent? Do you avoid eye contact? Or do you try anyway? Now answer out loud using this structure. When I feel nervous, I usually speak more slowly. Now you try. When I feel nervous, you take a simple pattern and you personalize it. Let's continue the story. Harry took one step forward. It was not a big step, but it was a decision. Because he stepped forward, others began to feel stronger too. Leadership often begins with one small action. Repeat. One small action can create big change. Again, one small action can create big change. Now make it personal. One small action in English can improve my confidence. One small action in English can improve my confidence. Excellent. Now we practice giving opinions. Do you think confidence is more important than talent? I think confidence is more important than talent because talent grows with practice, but confidence allows you to try. Now repeat. I think confidence is more important than talent because talent grows with practice, but confidence allows you to try. Now answer in your own way. I think confidence is important because speak freely. Do not worry about small mistakes. Your goal is communication. Even if he failed, he would learn. Even if he made mistakes, he would grow. That thought gave him strength. Repeat. Even if I fail, I will learn. Even if I make mistakes, I will grow. Even if I make mistakes, I will grow. Very good. Notice the structure. Even if. This structure helps you sound more natural and advanced. Now let's practice a short speaking challenge. I will describe a situation. You respond. Situation. You must speak English in front of new people. How do you feel? Start your answer with I feel. For example, I feel nervous at first, but I tried to stay calm. I feel. Good. Now continue. To improve, I will. For example, to improve, I will. Excellent. You are building longer responses. This is how fluency develops. Confidence grows when you speak complete thoughts, not only single words, complete ideas. For example, although I sometimes feel unsure, I know that practice will help me improve. Although I sometimes feel unsure, I know that practice will help me improve. Now create your own sentence using although. Start like this. Although English is challenging, I. Although English is challenging, I. Excellent work. Speaking is like training a muscle. And just like Harry discovered his strength step by step, you are discovering your voice every time you speak, every time you answer, and every time you choose confidence instead of silence.